Hello, in this video I'll show you how to fix the Xbox One controller drift. If you want to attempt this fix, I strongly recommend you to watch the full video first and then try it on your controller. This tutorial will work for both the Xbox One S controller and the old Gen controller. You can simply distinguish the generation of the controller by looking at the frame around the Xbox button. If the Xbox button is surrounded by the front plate, you have the Xbox One S controller. If the Xbox button is separated from the front plate, you have the old Gen controller. Before we start, we need to identify the direction in which the controller is experiencing the stick drift. To do this, you'll need a USB cable and a Windows 10 computer. Download the Game Controller Tester app from the Windows Store. Open it and connect the controller. Click on New Interface, then on Start Testing and select the controller. Now move around the sticks one by one and in one direction at a time. As you can see, this controller has a vertical drift on the right stick. Once you find the direction of the drift, you can start fixing the stick. To do so, you will need the following tools: a T8 Security Torx screwdriver, a plastic pry tool, a flathead screwdriver, a Torx T6 screwdriver, a few Q-tips, a napkin, isopropyl alcohol, some tweezers, and finally a soldering iron. So to take apart your controller, you'll have to stick your fingers between the trigger and the little back plate and pull. If you cannot do it, use the plastic pry tool. After you unlatch one of the clips, you can slide the plastic pry tool all around to fully unclip the piece of plastic. You will now have to unscrew 5 screws with the T8 Security Torx screwdriver. 4 of them are under the panels you just removed. The 5th one is in the battery compartment, right in the middle, hidden under the sticker. After removing all of the 5 screws, you can flip the controller around and remove the front plate. After that, pull the sticks out and finally lift up the internal controller assembly. Flip the controller back and you'll need to disconnect the vibration motor wires. If you want to, you can take pictures to remember which wire goes where. So heat up the soldering iron and desolder all the wires. If you have the Xbox One S controller, disconnect the little antenna cable from the daughter board. Now remove the 2 T6 screws holding the daughter board in place. And now lift it up. If you feel a bit of resistance, it's normal, since there are 2 connectors that bridge to the main board. You'll have just one connector if you have the Xbox One S controller. Now follow this scheme to identify the malfunctioning rotary encoder. In my case, I have a vertical drift on the right stick, so I'll have to operate on this encoder. Now, I didn't get a detailed shot when I fixed this particular controller, so I used a different controller board with a different drifting stick to give you a better perspective. Once you found the encoder, stick the flathead screwdriver between the plastic housing and the metal frame and pry it open. You'll have to bend it quite a lot to create a big enough opening. Use the tweezers to remove the circular slider from the plastic housing. Now take a Q-tip, soak it in alcohol and clean up the metal contacts of the slider. Then rip off a tiny piece from the napkin, form it into a little ball and soak that in alcohol as well. Take the little alcohol-soaked ball with the tweezers and clean up the inside of the plastic housing. After thoroughly cleaning everything up, you'll have to reassemble your controller. So put back the circular slider in the plastic housing and close it back. Also, beware of the direction of the contacts. You may need to push the housing vigorously to clip it back in place. And now repeat all the steps backwards to reassemble the controller. When you resolder the wires, keep in mind that the bottom motor wires go on the bottom pads of the daughter board, while the trigger wires go on the top pad. Also, you can see positive pad with plus and the negative pad with minus written on the board. Just remember one thing, the negative wire is always black, so black wire goes on the minus. After you finish reassembling the whole thing, you can proceed with testing to see if it was fixed. And, as you can see, this controller is fully fixed and the drift is gone. Now, there are a few occasions where the stick will max out at around 95% to 99% and won't get to 100%. If you have this problem, try to repeat the whole process again. If you still encounter the same problem, you'll have to replace the green plastic housing or the whole stick module. So, hope you found this guide useful, and now go ahead and try it on your drifting controller.